Hi everyone, and welcome to First and Cedar Knitting, a podcast where I talk about what I have been making and kind of what all I have been up to as far as my knitting. A lot of crochet has made an appearance here recently, and hopefully soon we will see some sewing on the blog. So this is going to be a traditional podcast episode. I have a lot to share. I'll leave personal life stuff to the end, and let's get started. We're going to start with what I'm wearing, and you'll probably see some repeats in these first few episodes now that we've been back home, just because I don't have a ton of different sweaters to wear. I could only fit so much in my suitcase, so this is where we are. Today I am wearing the Sheep Camp sweater by Native Knitter. It is a DK weight circular yoke colorwork, and it is actually one of my favorites to wear. I really like it. I modified it to have some more colorwork at the bottom to balance it out, and now that I'm looking at it on screen, I kind of wish it had some on the sleeves as well, because I think that would be nice. I did make it longer. Her original version is cropped. I don't really tend to wear as cropped as what that is. So yeah, that's what I love about knitting. You can make it as long as you want. We'll probably have some interruptions. I've got my little dude here today. Okay, I have one finished object since the last episode, and I'm actually not going to talk a lot about it, but I am going to show you. And it is my No Frills sweater by PetitKnit, and it is made using one strand of fingering weight and one strand of mohair. And the reason I'm not wearing it, and I'm not going to go too much into detail, is that I have an episode coming where I do plan on talking all about this one. It is the second half of another episode that I made where I'm just kind of talking about mohair and how it kind of made its way into the knitting world a few years ago, and I hadn't really jumped on the bandwagon until now. And so now I have my first mohair sweater, so stay tuned for that, maybe hopefully next week. Once I've gotten a chance to block it and wear it, I'll be telling you my thoughts all about a sweater that includes mohair. So that's all I have for finished objects, because when I finished that, I immediately cast on another sweater with some yarn I had here at my house. So I'm still waiting for my yarn to come from our move. It hasn't gotten here yet, but I had some yarn here in my house that I was able to unpack and look through, which was really exciting, and so I cast on. So yeah, finished objects, just the one, and sorry that I'm not going to go into great detail about it, but I have a whole podcast planned about it. But I did finish it, and I wanted to let you guys know that. Okay, I lied. I have one more finished object, which was kind of an impulse thing, which I'm actually really excited about, and it's not knitting. It's a notebook. This is my author's copy. That's why it says not for sale. But I designed my own knitting journal notebook. I'm super excited. It just has a cover page, so you can put your name. If you keep it at home, you can put your web pages, your knitting web pages and passwords on the bottom. It has some pages to write down your yarn stash, which I think will be really helpful. So a few of those. And I have a hard time participating in make-alongs, not because I don't want to, but because I forget that they exist. I hear about them, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna join that. And then I just move on with my knitting and then never submit anything. And so I added some pages for make-alongs, and it has a spot for who's hosting it, the start and end date, which I think is really important, where it's being hosted on. Like you can say it's hosted on Ravelry, it's hosted on Ravelry and Instagram, Discord. I've heard them, Facebook, like there's so many different places they can be hosted on, and then left me some spots for the rules, like mosaic knitting that Young Folk Knits is doing. What the rules are, where you can submit it, when, you know, all of that information, and I'll have it all in one place. And then when it's done, you know, it's done. But I've taken note of the make-alongs that I'm participating in, and then my project page. So it has the name of the project, again, start date, end date, the yarn, the needle or hook, the gauge, and then space for any notes. And for a drawing or any notes that I take about the project, if I want to draw it, color it in, it's there. And then I left myself some link pages at the end. And the size of this, it's not very thick, but it can hold over 80, I forget how many projects, at least 50 projects. And stuff. Hold on. Oof. Okay, I'm back. I wanted to show you how it fits in with the knitting. So like I have my project bag. It fits right in there, and it doesn't really use up very much space. This is my pattern from that project. It's about the size of a page folded in half. So I have these, and they're professionally printed, which is super exciting. If you want one, I have them available on Amazon. I will have the link below. Yeah, and so I'm super excited. And then when I use this one up, I can order myself a new one, just remake the cover, and go from there. And so, yeah, just wanted to share this. I also was thinking of doing another one and kind of making my pages a little bit different, having them be more like bullet journal style, and have like a page where you track how much you knit, and you can fill in a page with coloring, kind of like you do with bullet journals. And I wanted a couple of calendar pages in there where I could have probably start it with December and do a few pages with the different months of the year, so I could write out projects when I might want to finish them. I can write down when I started certain projects and what dates they ran through, and stuff. So yeah, I might make another one that's more bullet journal style, so keep your eyes out for that one. But yeah, the link to this one is down below. It's on Amazon. If you go to Amazon and you just put in Knitting Journal by Megan Desaulniers, it should come up. Yeah, and it's not expensive, and super excited about this. So yeah, I just need to start filling it in. Anyway, continuing on, as I ramble about my works in progress. Whew, okay, works in progress. And this is also going to be probably a fairly short segment, just because I haven't made any progress on any of the projects that I had talked about in my last episode, because I'm almost done with a brand new cast on. So I know last episode at the end I pulled out some blue yarn and talked about how I was going to knit in that blue yarn. This isn't blue, this isn't the yarn, obviously. I was going to knit Rebecca Clowe from the Crochet Knitting. I was gonna knit her stick season in it. And before I got a chance to wind up the yarn, which I would have had to do by hand, because again, my knitting stuff is not here. And it's DK weight, so it wouldn't have been too bad to hand wind some yarn. I could have taken the time to do it. The thing is, I've never done a drop shoulder construction. When I started knitting, I immediately went into raglans, because that's kind of what everyone was knitting, and that's what seemed the easiest for me to learn. And I found a recipe for kind of making your own, which I used a lot in a lot of my early knitting. I just kind of figured it out and tried and learned how to do the raglan and make the stitch counts work for what I was wanting. And then from there I moved on to circular yoke sweater. And so that's kind of where I've been up until now, and I'm slow to join the bandwagons. The bandwagons go by and I just kind of wave and say hi. I'm still over here enjoying the last thing I learned how to make. I'll catch y'all later maybe. So as with the mohair, the drop shoulder, I haven't made one. So before I cast on with my sort of nicer yarn, the blue yarn is the hedgerow yarn from Pearl Soho, and I've been saving it. It's a really beautiful blue. I love wearing blue. I kind of wanted to dip my feet in with a little lower stakes yarn as far as developing and doing the drop shoulder. So I did that, and I have made so much progress on this. I have been knitting on it like a crazy person and just enjoying it so much. I did not do the texture at the top, and I'm not regretting it. It made it easier. And to do it last night as I was waiting on election results, I worked on the neckband, and as you can see, it's really wide because I did not read through the instructions completely, and I cast on the same amount as she calls for the biggest size, but that's okay. It's 2x2 rib. It's gonna cinch back in. Like if I don't stretch it out, it doesn't look humongous. And I am this far into my second sleeve. I did the short rows. I did both sets of short rows that are on the sleeves late at night, and they actually came out good. It does need to be blocked, and she does say that this part here eventually unscrunches a little once the stitches settle down, and I really hope they do just a little bit more because you're doing an increase on every single round. But yeah, my thoughts so far on this. If you haven't knit a drop shoulder construction, it feels more high maintenance than a raglan or a circular yoke, because with the circular yoke and the raglan, you get your, not always, but you usually start with your neck stitches, and then you just kind of start growing it out until you get your stitches that you need. With the drop shoulder, you're starting with the back neck, so at the top of your neck, and then you're widening it out and then going down until you get to the bottom of the armpit. So you're starting with the trapezoid type thing, and you go down and you cut your yarn and you put that on hold, and then you come to the front shoulder and you pick up the stitches and you knit your way forward to a certain point. Then you put those stitches on hold. Then you go to the other side, you knit over your shoulder, add your neck stitches, pick up the first shoulder, and then you're going back and forth until you get to the armpit, and then you join in the round just for the body, which ends up being quite a bit of flat knitting, which is fine. I don't mind knitting and purling. It's just you break your yarn and then you're joining back in a lot more often than with a raglan or a circular yoke. And so it felt like it took me a while to get going. Usually the yoke section of the sweater is my favorite part, and I'll get through the yoke and I'll be so excited, and then I lose steam. So I usually love doing the yoke part, but with this one, because there was so many breaks and you're going back and forth and you're counting and you're growing, I almost lost steam during the yoke. But by the time I was almost out, I joined in the round for the body and then kept going. And it kind of, instead of like deflating me when I got to the circular part, it kind of gave me energy to where I was like, okay, I can do this. It'll be a little bit of a mental break. It'll be some potato chip knitting. I can just go, 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 go in the round. So yeah, I did make a mistake on my decreases on the sleeve, but I don't think it's gonna make a difference. I was supposed to decrease every 8th round, every 7th round, and I misread that and I made 7 and then decreased, so I decreased on the 8th. So I ended up with a slightly longer sleeve, which I actually think is okay. I feel like most of the time my sleeves end up a little bit short by the time you add your elbow needs. I lose a little bit of length, so it fits at the beginning, and even if you measure from here, it's like, oh, it's perfect, it's the perfect length. By the time you bend your elbow and you're not pulling on the fabric here, I lose that. So I'm okay with it being longer, and it's got a pretty cinched cuff with the 2x2 rib, so if I want to pull it up, if it's a little bit long on me, it won't get in my way as I'm doing stuff as a busy mama. So I'm so excited. Almost done. And the yarn I'm using for this, like I said, it was like a low stakes. If it didn't turn out amazingly, I wasn't gonna feel upset. It's just a Hobby Lobby yarn. Yarn Bee Must Be Merino, which is 50% wool, 25% acrylic, 25% nylon. So half of it's wool, half of it's synthetic, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that right now. I had the yarn already. It sat in my basement for 2 years. Might as well use it, especially as a first draft almost of the sweater, which is another reason why I was like, I'm not gonna do the texture on it, because with the blue one, with my nicer yarn, with no acrylic in it, I want to do the texture so it's a true Stick Seasons sweater. So yeah, that is the only whip that I have worked on, the only work in progress. All of my other works in progress have not seen daylight. They've been in their little project bags, snug together up on my shelf, and I just haven't worked on them. And I think a couple of those I'm going to put into deep hibernation, just because we got 3 inches of snow and it is not appropriate to be wearing some of the projects that I was planning on working on, because they are summer knits. Summer ended. Summer and fall just kind of ended, and winter came in full force here in Denver. If I was still in Japan, I have the feeling that I probably would have completed those projects that I started. The climate there has been milder. It has gotten chilly, but not 3 inches of snow. So, yeah, that's my only whip that I worked on. So not too bad though, almost a full sweater. I'm just missing half a sleeve, which I can probably finish while I'm editing this and loading it up. So yeah. And last but not least, what I'm planning on knitting next, because that sweater will be done soon, and I really feel like my time is better spent, my knitting time is better spent on sweaters than the fingering weight projects that I had going, though I do think I want to finish my daughter's sweater. So I have 2 projects that I'm thinking of working on. The first one is a colorwork sweater. I have some more of this Yarn Bee and a skein of Handmaiden. My mother-in-law gave this to me. This is alpaca merino, and I might have to hold this double to meet the same gauge as this. This is a DK weight, and I think this is a sport, so I might leave it single. And I'm thinking of doing a circular colorwork sweater, this being the colorwork, this being the main color, and I haven't quite decided which one. Might make this one again. Can you see it? this here, and then this. And I hope to have this one done in time for Thanksgiving. That's why the orange, I think, is going to work perfectly, pretty high contrast. So stay tuned on whether or not I start this one later today. That's my goal, or not. And then I also found these two partial skeins of Lion Brand's Fisherman's Wool, which a lot of people say is too scratchy, but honestly, like, I hadn't felt it in a while. I didn't have this with me in Japan, and it does not feel that scratchy. So I'm gonna weigh this, and this might be this might become a sweater too. It's thicker. This is worsted weight, and I'm thinking, as cold as it's been, I need thicker sweaters. So, and this one would knit up so quick given that it's a worsted weight. But we shall see. 100% wool. It doesn't say what kind of wool it is. It's made in India, so it's probably just regular wool, but it's fairly soft. A little bit scratchy on my face, but not itchy. Scratchy I can handle. Sometimes I have a hard time with alpaca and stuff because it can be a tiny bit sharp, and then that feels prickly and itchy. But I can handle rough, like just not soft yarn. And then I made a swatch for crochet because I am thinking of making a sweater, and you'll recognize the color. This is my leftover yarns from my No Frills mohair, and they're, instead of being held together, I held the mohair double, and I held the fingering weight on its own, and I did some stripes, and I think I'm in love. I love how it's the same stitch, and the yarns are fairly similar in color, but it looks like stripes just because it's different types of yarns and like the dimension it gives it. So when my yarn comes in, I have some mohair, and I hope I have enough to do a sweater. So stay tuned. I'm thinking knit from the bottom, not knit, crochet from the bottom up. Sorry about the interruption, but I'm trying not to have my children on camera. Anyway, I'm thinking of crocheting a sweater, and from the bottom up, and then probably do knit around the neckline and maybe knit the sleeves, but have the body be this beautiful striped mohair and regular yarn fluffiness. Super excited about this one. But yeah, so that's all I have for today. It's gonna be a super short episode. I don't think it's gonna be more than 20 minutes, but I was really excited about my burgundy sweater here and just how much progress I had made on it. On my next vlog, once it's done, I think I'll do a whole recap of how I like it. It was interesting doing the short rows here for the top of the sleeve. So